If we don't have a literate society, we really don't have a free society. We've known that for 200 years as Americans. And of course, living in New Mexico, being the very, very bottom of the barrel in education, we don't have a literate society in our state. Growing up in New Mexico, we were always at the bottom. And we got to look realistically as to why that's happening. I grew up in the New Mexico education system. I'm an instructional coach, but I have worked over 20 years in education, in the classroom, in the library. I've always worked with children my entire life, even as a kid. I worked with children. And so working with children has always been, I feel like a calling. I even worked in foster care and in counseling. My cousins grew up in the same education system I did. And long about the time I was in 5th grade and my cousin was in 4th grade, they moved to Texas. And my cousin was very, very, very far behind. And they had to catch her up. And when it came time for her to graduate from high school, she could not pass the high school equivalency exam. Then they called it the teens test. My aunt, who was an educator, had to spend a lot of money tutoring to make up for the lack of her New Mexico education. Here in New Mexico, there's not really a good attendance requirement. So you enroll your kid in a New Mexico school, but you really don't have to bring them to school in New Mexico. They can miss 9 days in a row, and there's no consequences for it. And then when they miss the 10th day, the only thing New Mexico requires the school to do is unenroll them and then report them to the Children and Family Youth Department, CYFD. And our CYFD system is a hot mess. I mean, I had a child bruised across his face, up and down. I called CYFD so many times, nothing got done. Nothing got done. His whole face covered in bruises. He had like pellet gun holes on his arms. Nothing got done. I wanted to pick up this kid and bring him home. Every day I prayed for this kid. Just praying he's still safe. I don't know if he is. We're so frustrated. We are so frustrated because, we know we're required by law to make these calls. Every year we do this training, and every year we know nothing's going to get done. During the COVID pandemic, our school system lost track of over 100,000 children. So we don't even know where those kids are. And we don't know if they moved to another state. They just disappeared off our radar. I had a student in my last classroom who, out of 177 days of school, she only was at school for 64 of them. And I was required to pass her to the next grade. And I sat there saying, no, how can I legally pass this child to the next grade? She was not here for school. All my grade book has zeros, but they told me, no, you have to pass her to the next grade. She could not meet any of the grade standards, but I was required to pass her. She didn't pass the state test. She couldn't, but I had to pass her. Or when you have a discipline issue, really and truthfully, the only authority you have in the classroom is what you can fool the child into thinking you have. I walked down the hallway the other day and I had a first grader throwing a bookshelf across the room. A first grader. And he already knew that if he screamed loud enough and said no hard enough, nothing would be done. I had other students who just already knew that if I throw my desk across the room, I get what I want. And I get to leave my classroom and not do my work. And I go to another room where I get a sucker, or I get candy, or I get my mom to come pick me up and I don't have to be at school. One of the reasons why I left the classroom to step into the role that I'm in right now was because I had a student in my classroom who, second grade, not even potty trained. And he was wearing diapers, and when he got angry, he would just pull feces out of his diapers and wipe it on everyone because he wanted out of the classroom. We could not give consequences. That's when we started getting the PBIS. That's when we started having to give all these rewards and briberies, and you couldn't give consequences, you had to give rewards. When all of those systems got put into place for positive behavior, you had to only acknowledge positive behavior and ignore negative behavior. You couldn't give consequences for negative behavior. So to get your license here in New Mexico now, you don't even have to pass the licensure. And then once you're in, it's almost impossible to get you out. So you can be a really bad teacher, a really, really bad teacher. They don't report their scores, and they do not follow science of reading. So a lot of those kids come out not being able to read very well. New Mexico is a state where more people vote for a living than work for a living. So we have a high population of people who are using federal welfare to fund their lifestyle. And it's sad, but it's true. We live in a state where, for instance, in schools where they are educated by the Bureau of Indian Education, and I have family members who are Native American. They came home from their school system where they brought home applications. My aunts were like, good, they're going to teach you how to fill out a job application. No, it was a welfare application. That's what they were taught to do in the Bureau of Indian Education. Here, we're going to teach you how to fill out a food stamp application. Here, we're going to teach you how to fill out a welfare application. Be dependent for the rest of your life, because that's what the Bureau of Indian Education wants them to be, dependent on the government for the rest of their life. And that's evil. New Mexico is a transgender sanctuary state. As a teacher, if I worked in the local school district, I would be required to socially transition a child who as young as 5. If a Billy came in and he decided he wanted to be Bonnie, I would be required to socially transition that child without informing the parent. In Synergy, which is the attendance program, there is a preferred pronoun, they call it secret identity, where it's informing the teacher what the child's name is, what the child's pronouns are, but we're not allowed to tell the parent what is in that profile. And that can be as young as 5 years old. My local school district has that policy and the parents don't even know it. The school board has placed that policy without informing the parents. Matter of fact, my local school board has their school board meetings at 1:00 on Tuesday, and parents are not allowed to speak, even though the school board is supposed to work for the parents. The teachers aren't even allowed to speak. They have it very, very closed up, very, very buttoned up. And most of the parents don't even know that that policy is in place. But they recently put in the transgender sanctuary policy for the state, and they stripped away all conscientious objections and religious objections for teachers and counselors for anyone practicing in the state of New Mexico. We know we want to educate our kids, especially when we were kind of browbeat over the heads about helping our kids read, helping our kids do math. I very recently had a very, very good professor tell me we have to kind of be as wise as serpent and as meek as doves. And that's kind of how I'm approaching things, really and truthfully. New Mexico can save its education. Number one, require attendance. Require attendance for students. It's very easy to homeschool. You don't want your kid in school? Homeschool them. If not, require attendance. Number 2, fix the undergraduate system. Have those professors actually teach science of reading. Reinstate teacher certification tests. Okay? You have no business being a teacher if you cannot pass that test. I cannot tell you how many teachers write me emails who can't spell. DEI in education is not a good thing. It is bad that we're teaching pronouns over reading, writing, and math. Get your indoctrination out of the classroom and get us back to the basics. Those things will actually work. We need science of reading, we need science of math, we need explicit instruction in both of those things in order to fix our education. I will tell you, we are starting there, but we're doing it very, very piecemeal. I'm feeling very encouraged about that now. We didn't have a place before. I'm feeling more encouraged that we are allowed to be who we are, that we are allowed to kind of draw the line and say, hey, you know what? School is not for indoctrination. School is for getting our kids to read and write and do math, and that's it. If we don't fix it, there are some states, the way that they choose to build a prison is by looking at third grade boys' reading tests. Here in New Mexico, we're building a lot of prisons, and we don't want to do that. I don't want any child I touch going to prison. And we're a hotbed for that. Not under my influence. Not under my influence.